Hello and welcome to VGK Project. In this session we're going to take a look at how to create a new schedule and how to enter your schedule items. To create a new schedule, use the Schedule Planning button. Search for the project that you want to create a new schedule for. Keep in mind that a project can have only one schedule. Once it's created, however, it can then be edited. For now we want to use a project that doesn't yet have a schedule. So double click on your selected project and then the Schedule Template dialog pops up. Using a template is a very helpful and powerful technique which speeds up the planning process, but it will be explained in its own dedicated session. In this session we're going to look at how to create a schedule from the very beginning, so we won't use a template. Instead we'll just use the Select button, which takes us to an empty schedule. Note that a new schedule is automatically linked to the chosen project. It has only one item, Project Start. This item was created automatically and it marks the beginning of the schedule. To compile your schedule, you simply need to add your items and their information. So to add an item to the schedule, just use the toolbar button, Add New Item to the same level. Now you're able to choose a new item from a list of your typical items. So despite differences between projects, you will have similar items which repeat from project to project. From our experience, we assume that most of your projects consist of typical items, with the difference being in the combinations of them. From your experience, you can identify and compile your own list of typical schedule items. We use these typical items to compile our schedules, which improves their consistency, their readability, as well as speeding up the planning process. Find your item using the search button. To minimise the list, you can specify one or more of the criteria available, or limit the category and the item that it belongs to. Say we want to add an item to the basement section. We'll use the category Foundation and choose Basement Construction. Just click Accept to add the item to the schedule. Note that the schedule item's name is the same as the name of the typical item. The new item already has a predecessor, the Project Start. And a link type was also set by default. Set as End to Start, meaning that there's no breaks between these projects. Here's the item name, and if a job is defined for the project, you can link this item to it. We just set the item duration, and that's all that's required to put an item into the schedule. The start date is automatically calculated based on the predecessors and the link type, and the end is defined by the start and duration. So to compile your schedule, you just repeat this process and add all of your items and their information. So with the next item, we want to add some more details to the basement construction section. To do this, use the toolbar button, Add New Item to Item Sub-Schedule. This will create a new item and place it into the sub-schedule of the basement construction. Notice that basement construction was sub-scheduled and dirt removal was added as the first item within it. Project Start was used as a predecessor, and a default link type is given, which you can change to suit your needs. The job link was also inherited from the parent item, basement construction. So we just need to specify duration for the item to be successfully added to the schedule. So we'll just continue this process and add a few more items to the basement construction sub-schedule until we've got all the information that we need. We'll add items to the same level as the current item, dirt removal. So the next item will be concrete flooring. Note that dirt removal was set as the predecessor, since it's the essential previous step and was where our new item was initiated from. The default link End to Start is set by the program. We'll use that, but you can change it. We just specify the duration and the item is added to the schedule. Note that from the predecessor and link type, the start date was automatically calculated. So let's add another item to the same subschedule. We'll use wall construction as our next item, and it was added beneath concrete flooring, which is therefore set as a predecessor. So the item from where we create another automatically becomes its predecessor. The default link, though, is not what we want in this case, as concrete needs some time to rest before we can continue to work. So we'll just change that to an interval link type. And we'll use the calendar to set 1 day for a needed gap between these events. Now the start date is recalculated, and the program tells us that the 11th is when we can progress. Note that the flooring was done on April the 7th, with 1 day's rest means April the 8th. 2 days are added as it happens to be the weekend, meaning the 11th is our next working day, so the concrete will have a good rest. So for walls construction, we'll add 4 days to the duration, and our item has been added to the schedule. So let's continue to add another item. This time we'll put walls casting as the next item. And we'll accept all of the defaults, the predecessor and the link type. And we'll just specify our duration. We'll put it as 2 days. Okay, and now we're done with this subschedule. So let's say we want to add our next item to the main level. To do this, let's choose the project start, and we'll use the add to the same level button in order to add it to the main schedule. So the next item will be floor framing. We can set criteria to minimise our search and add our item to the schedule. Note that the item is placed on the main schedule at the same level as the project start and basement construction. Project start was an initiator and was set as the predecessor, but that's not what we want at the moment. So we want to identify that wall casting was the predecessor. So we'll simply reset it by dragging it to the predecessor list. We want to change the link to include an interval, which we'll set as 2 days to allow it to solidify. And again, the start date was recalculated from our input, so we'll just add a duration. We might also add a link type to the job, and the item is now added to the schedule. So let's add one more item. We'll choose the frame construction category, and we'll choose beam installation as our next item. So the item has been added to the main level and is placed next to floor framing. You can leave it here or move it under floor framing into its subschedule position. That seems a better choice, so we'll just drag and drop it into floor framing, and now it's been repositioned within its subschedule. Since floor framing is now the item's parent, it adds another predecessor to our item. This predecessor was not set, but it was inherited from our parent item. We want to add wall casting as a clear predecessor, and so to do this we'll just right click and choose Add as Predecessor from the menu. Now this predecessor is set explicitly. Again, we'll set an interval type with 2 days gap, and another item is added to the schedule. We want to add more items to the floor framing, so we'll just right click and choose Add Item to the same level. And this places the item in the same schedule where the current item is. And we'll choose the item Floor Joist Framing. And the beam installation was set as the predecessor. And the default end to start link type is fine for this link. The job link was inherited, and we'll just set a duration. So we continue this process and add more items to the same level. This time we'll choose subflooring. And we need to set a duration of 3 days. And the rest is good to go. So now we've developed this section of the schedule, we can proceed to save it. When we go to save, the VGK project validates all the information and it reports on any identified problems. All the problems here are specified as a low severity, so they can be ignored and resolved later. So we'll go ahead and save. You can also visualize the schedule by using a Gantt chart. This completes our training for this session, but we will continue to develop our schedule in the following sessions. In the next episode, we'll show you how to develop the schedule using the schedule blocks. Thank you for choosing VGK Project. You can learn more about our products at vgksolutions.com.